So thank you very much, Martin, for organizing this conference. It's a pleasure to be here and to participate in spreading the word about longevity. When we talk about longevity, what is it exactly that we are talking about? Obviously, a lot of things shorten our life, and we probably cannot fight them all. But we should focus our efforts on the thing that shortens our lives the most and our health the most, and that is the aging process, the degenerative aging process. So the essence of the geroscience approach is basically if you intervene into the degenerative aging process, if you somehow mitigate this process, you will be able to postpone not one disease or one symptom, but multiple age-related diseases at the same time, the so-called age-related multimorbidity. And in this way, you can extend the healthy lifespan, not necessarily the maximum lifespan, but the healthy lifespan, the time that people will live without age-related diseases. That is the main idea, and that is what we advocate for. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. There are many proofs of feasibility, proofs of principle from animal models, like the one that Dr. Rosman just showed, and also from emerging human trials. This is the classification of the NIH, of the US National Institute of Health, the Geroscience Interest Group, that posits seven principles, seven main targets of aging, seven main aging processes that we can target to extend the healthy lifespan. Of course, there can be other classifications. Other classifications, they could be 50, and they could be 9, they could be 72. The main point is that we can target particular aging process for each such process, like changes in metabolism, inflammation, epigenetics, adaptation to stress. There have been shown interventions that can target them and extend the healthy lifespan on animal models by 30-40% for mice, and for lower organisms like nematode worms by a factor of 5 or even 10. Our goal to bring those therapies to humans as soon as possible, because there's no real fundamental difference in terms of our biology, only some practical technological questions. Of course, you cannot treat something that you cannot diagnose. Therefore, it is very important to develop biomarkers of aging, the clinical criteria to evaluate not only the effects of therapy, but also to be able to predict the risks of individuals develop age-related pathology. That is also very important for prevention, as was mentioned. Prevention start, from childhood, and it is also important to be able to measure the effects of various therapies, because obviously it is difficult to wait several decades to see who particularly live longer or shorter from certain I had the privilege to be involved in some studies. I was introduced by Martin as an activist. Yes, that is my main area of activity, longevity activism. But I was also involved in some actual scientific studies. That's the one that we co-authored with the Chinese colleagues from the Peking Medical College. And during this time, during this epidemic, they were able to transplant, going back to the previous talk, to transplant mesenchymal stem cells as a way to treat critical COVID-19 patients. And they were actually able to show recovery in all the seven patients in whom this was introduced. And how is this connected to aging? As the previous speakers, Dr. Osman, told and explained, inflammation, and the so-called inflammaging, is the most fundamental process of aging. The biggest killer of aging. So mesenchymal stem cells, similar to hematopoietic stem cells, are well-known anti-aging treatment that can reduce inflammation. In some cases, it can just postpone disease, but in some cases, it can even save life. So basically, it again shows the continuity between the process of aging and the process of disease. So basically, it shows the feasibility of using anti-aging therapies also to treat disease. In terms of diagnostics, I was also involved with Dr. David Bloch, my main collaborator, in developing some models to predict multimorbidity. The main hallmark of aging is that all the people have multiple diseases at the same time. So if we really want to achieve health and longevity, we need to try to prevent them all at the same time. The main most famous case is the study by Dr. Nir Barzilai from Albert Einstein College in New York, who achieved an FDA approval for exactly such a study to prevent multiple age-related diseases by intervention into aging process by a well-known drug, metformin. So this drug has been known for 50 years. It's nothing especially groundbreaking in terms of science, but the idea to prevent multiple diseases is very novel. It's kind of a new paradigm. Instead of going after particular disease, we go after the whole old age multimorbidity, after the entire old age ill health. So this is the kind of paradigm we try to and who will benefit from this kind of intervention, from this postponement of aging process? Everybody. If we talk about economic savings, you don't have to explain that treatments become extremely costly at the end of life when people have multiple chronic diseases. And if we postpone the onset of this disease even by 1 year, even if we extend the healthy longevity by 1 year, we'll be able to save tens of thousands for an individual person and trillions for the global economy. And there were studies in the United States that showed exactly that. And these kind of arguments are supposed to make a good impression on policymakers, on people who control the money, but we are not them. So for us, it's just important to know that we can be healthy for longer. In terms of the society, in terms of economy, there's also an argument that that such treatments make strong. Interested in such therapies, everybody. Once again, the general public should be aware and should demand those therapies. The pharmaceutical and medical technology industry should be able to develop such therapies, should be incentivized to develop such therapies. Health insurance, life insurance companies are also basically the main beneficiaries of this approach. Obviously, the longer they will save on regulators and policymakers should prioritize this research as a way to grow the economy, to develop the society, and people like us, scientists and students, should be aware of this exciting scientific problem and be willing to invest their time and effort and brains into the solution. And there is a place for everybody. There's a place for everybody, every country, every person, not just scientists, also layperson, and not just huge scientific superpowers like the United States or China. Also for smaller countries like Israel, where I'm from, like Slovenia. Every country has its strengths. For example, I give you there was a lecture about 7 years ago at the Sense Research Conference in Cambridge, where there was a Slovenian scientist, Dr. Tanja Dominko. She is now working in the UK in the Worcester University, but she is originally from Gorica University, and she presented a very interesting case how longevity research can be developed in Slovenia. So I'm kind of stealing some of her slides. The project, apparently the project that she advocated didn't succeed, or something something was stopped there, but the arguments are all valid. Slovenia has excellent preconditions to develop longevity industry, a very skilled, highly educated society with a large, for example, a recent finding, a large percentage of PhDs, a beautiful ecosystem, excellent tourist attractions, the heart of Europe, EU member, all kinds of arguments that can be brought why this could and should be developed in Slovenia. And similar or different arguments can be developed for other countries, for Israel, for any countries. Each country has its strengths. In some of the population has certain skills. In certain countries, there's a better regulation, or some areas of economy. This is a task. The longevity promotion is a task that will need everybody. It will need strong international cooperation, but also developing each place independently. You cannot rely on something being done and then shared somewhere. If you can offer something, there's a better chance that you will also be involved in the sharing process. So that's just an example of the importance of advocacy. So the need is clear. We need to advance longevity research. We need to develop longevity therapies. We need to extend the healthy lifespan of our population. What do we do? Like in any social cause, like in any social movement, if you think something should be done, that just go ahead and advocate for it, educate for it. You create a social demand. And it's the same with longevity industry, with longevity activism. And this is not just a task for scientists, but for the whole society, because the whole society will eventually benefit from it. And this advocacy can be done at different levels, at the international level, at the national level, at the level of individual organizations, and even at the personal level. At the international level, we need to become aware of certain policy frameworks. For example, the WHO strategy for healthy aging, or the 13th General Program of Work until 2023, and I focus on that because these points were actually influenced by longevity advocacy, but I will get back to it later. So we need to become aware of those of this framework that can support longevity research and application, and increase awareness about them, so they don't just remain on paper, but also become actual policies, actual action. Most importantly is the advocacy at the national level. We need to develop certain guidelines, certain policy guidelines for the investment of the field, and make the government aware of them. This is an example of the position paper that we produced with the International Society on Aging and Disease, that advocates for increasing funding, incentives, institutional support for the longevity field. It was translated to 12 languages, submitted to several governments. So we need more works like this. Of course, the main unit, the main advocacy unit is an NGO, is an individual society, like the Slovenian Society for Vital Life Extension. That's where it all begins. That's where most of the work is done. So for example, in our Israeli association called VETEX, the Movement for Longevity and Quality of Life, we strive to increase education awareness about longevity research, increase communication support between different agents and stakeholders, and also try to encourage analysis and data processing to understand the trends in the field. But of course, other organizations can do other things. The most important is to develop those units, those organizations, and then work between them. For example, the International Longevity Alliance, where both the Slovenian organization and the Israeli organization are part, it tries to do exactly that, to network between you don't have to wait for the government to adopt those policies, this agenda. You will be too old until it happens. Each one of us can do his or own part. Just learning about the subject, getting in touch with others, lobbying where possible, participating in research, and just being healthy. As we say, live long enough to live even longer. That's all can be done, and from these individual efforts, the global movement can grow. Great. The need is clear, and the action, the policy, the advocacy actions are also more or less clear. But does it work? Is anybody living longer because of all this actions because of all this advocacy. Too early to say. The entire longevity movement is only recently beginning to rise above the rise on the radar, to become recognized as a global social movement. Of course, the idea is very old, thousands of years. I'm an historian of this topic, wrote a book about it, but the actual social movement for longevity is very young. It's only recently as some kind of political social force. So we have to see, but there are already some results. Uh, uh, I'll tell a few that I personally was involved. For example, the longevity dividend back in 2006. I had the honor to be one of the signers of the initial longevity dividend petition that was created by the American scholars, Professor Olshansky and others. So that made an impact. And since then, we have been going and growing. There were such initiatives as the International Longevity Day. So each October, longevity organizations in various countries are organizing events, promotions. Another recent initiative is the series of geroscience conferences organized by the National Institute of Aging and the NIH Geroscience Interest Group, 7 countries, including Israel. So this kind of grassroots, promotions are very important to spread the word. And there are already some results. Just a few examples. Back in 2017, the WHO, the World Health Organization, did not include aging as a part of its work program. Can you imagine? 60 million people die from age-related diseases. It's not on the agenda of the World Health Organization. So there was a public outcry. Hundreds of people, hundreds of organizations wrote to the WHO and demanded that this topic is included. And eventually it was included the first time in history with specific endpoints like increasing healthy life expectancy, ensuring healthy aging, decreasing age-related disability. And here you have the head of the WHO Aging and Life Course Division, Professor Beard, saying the campaign succeeded, the WHO listened, we now have this topic on the agenda, and quotes our paper, our position paper about the need to include this topic. So wonderful. The thing is, it's still not on the agenda the way it entered, so it's going to come out. There's again no mention of it in the next work program, and they're probably going to cancel or severely impair the division of aging in life course. And I am not sure anybody has any more strength to continue fighting with them, but at least it shows that through advocacy, through activism, you can really change public health policy even at the global level. Another great example where the International Longevity Alliance was involved is the introduction of aging as a modifying factor in the ICD-11, in the International Classification of Diseases. So now aging is at least recognized as a factor in disease. Once again, to bring it to the public, to the level of any practitioners will require effort. But at least it also shows that advocacy can be effective. And once again, each place has its own strengths, and each place does its own part. So here in Israel, we try to be active in this advocacy. We organize discussions in Knesset. We develop policy documents. And there were some successes. There were calls for research proposals specifically on health and longevity by the Ministry of Science, for example. Also, there was a binational call for research proposals between Israel and the United Kingdom, the so-called BIREX aging, Britain, Israel Research and Academic Exchange on Aging. I had the honor to write the first draft of this call for research proposal exactly with those points: prevention, biomarkers of aging, prevention of multimorbidity, prevention of frailty. So it was also a nice push. There were 200 labs who submitted projects, 100 projects, 100 from Israel, 100 from the United Kingdom. and eventually 7 won the funding. But still, it shows the precedent, shows the possibility. Of course, such program can be established between any other country or within particular countries. For example, between Slovenia and Israel, between I don't know, United Kingdom and Slovenia, because it's a global topic. But basically, it shows that through advocacy, you can really achieve some results. You can really make the decision makers aware of this problem and even spend some money on it. That's why I'm very hopeful for advocacy, and I encourage advocacy everywhere. If we really want this movement to bring fruits, results, we need to be more active. So I very much congratulate on the success of your study, on the survey of public attitudes and of life extension in Slovenia. That's very important. But I really don't think you should wait until everybody who is interested will read it. Of course, you should publish it in academic work, but you shouldn't wait for policymakers to find it and read it. You should bring it to them, to their nose. Listen, that's what people are interested in. That's what they desire. So if you want to get elected next time, please pay attention and to develop this topic, because otherwise they will not bother. So I hope as a result of all this advocacy efforts, of all the scientific, technological efforts, we'll all obtain our goal of health and longevity for everybody in every country, in every place, for ourselves, for our loved ones. And I hope that we all make our contribution through conferences like this, through organizations like ours. So once again, thank you very much for your efforts.
Thank you very much, Ilia, for a great lecture and also for great ideas. What we can also do with the research in Slovenia. And now we have around 2 minutes for a short question. So here is question from Didier. It goes, what are for you the best ways to ensure that the results of the research will be largely available during the research that once therapies were available?
That's a great question. I think that the way to ensure the availability is that they become a part of public entitlement. So we don't leave it all to private companies. Of course, they have their place, they're important. We don't leave it all to private companies. We make it part of public programs. How do we make it part of public programs? By public advocacy. So if we really make it part of democratic process, then we can ensure that the public is entitled to it. If not, if you have done nothing to advocate for it, if you're not a part of this political movement, then you just have to wait for the good graces of the manufacturer if the prices they want to establish. But otherwise, you just need to create a social movement, and then in the end, you will be entitled to the results.
Super. Thanks for these thoughts. But now, okay, I have another question. Maybe quickly, what biomarkers for aging do you regularly, routinely check?
What do I check?
If you check any biomarkers of aging.
Yeah. First of all, I work a lot on trying to research those biomarkers. I published over 10 papers about biomarkers, the algorithms for the establishing of biomarkers. About myself, I don't do much, to be honest with you. I know I try to eat healthy, not to do anything crazy, try to do some exercise. I'm not a big biohacker, you know. I don't check much. I don't do much interventions, because I don't think that I personally know enough, you know, to follow a well-developed regimen. I'm also not a doctor, not a medical doctor, so I don't make any recommendation. What I do, I advance research. I'm a research advocate. The more research, the sooner we get results, authoritative results, well evidenced results, the sooner we'll be able to
Okay.